My mother requests that I do a improved job with introducing the guests, so she knows what. And Mom, this is for you. She's like, I want to know like what I'm getting myself into. She want to know her exact words were, I want to know why you chose these people to sit in the chair.
Okay.
And so if I were to describe, I was thinking about this earlier. I was going to say, well, I think we've been on a similar path the last few years, and I would say sorta ish. I say we've done some similar things the last few years, but I got a path and you got a path. I think, and within that path has been TEDx talks and books, and you do great work in the world leading people on their programs and business coaching and other sorts of coaching as well. Yeah, I know. It's like you're strapped into the ride here.
This tea's so good, man. I don't want to like miss it on the tea.
The tea's good. Keep hitting it. It's chamomile. But Mother, I would say Deidre Sirianni here, just generally a good person, and we always have good conversations. Yeah. And you're also good at kind of keeping me in my place. Sometimes we've had some of those conversations. Yeah. Oh God, we're about to have another one, perhaps. But no, we laugh a lot.
Tell me what's going on, Michael.
Okay.
What you need?
Well, nothing in this moment. Doing pretty well. But that's who you are. I mean, you courageously put yourself out there. I know you're doing some singing and other courageous things right now. But in general, good person, leading other people, which is not always easy. Courageously being authentic and putting yourself out there, especially your TEDx talk, which I recently rewatched. So if you wanna take a hint of authenticity and being courageous, that was definitely it. How'd I do?
I think you did great.
Yeah.
I just had a flashback actually to the TEDx where no one really talks about vulnerability hangovers. And I remember doing the TEDx and my parents were in the center of the room and I could feel their anxiety as I was saying it because in my TEDx, it's like, I talk about a big trauma that I had and, you know, the older generation, they're not used to sharing and revealing their traumas and their wounds. They're very much good at like, let's sweep it under the rug. Let's not deal with it. So I just remember there's one point in my TEDx where I was just, I feel so much that I could feel my parents' anxiety as I was talking and I forgot what I was saying on stage. And I just remember like the lights on me.
I think I saw that. I think I know that part. But it was an extra long silence. But you came back from it. You remembered. Did the words you said next, were they the words that you were supposed to say next?
I think I, you know, got back onto the path.
Yeah.
But what I was told was people who were at the, like in the audience, they're like, wow, like I was just hanging on what you were saying. I was like, I actually just forgot what I was saying because my parents were watching it in the audience and I was just feeling so much. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, there's some moments that we don't really talk about as entrepreneurs or leaders that happen behind the scenes before getting to these milestones and also after that people don't talk about enough. So I love talking about those pieces because it's good to be mentally prepared for it.
And I think that was another thing I was thinking about what I was going to tell your mom about Deidre over here
Sorry, Michael's mom.
Joan.
Joan, nice to meet you.
Like you have been a proper entrepreneur for as long as I can remember. 10 years, the whole time. Like, right? How long has it been?
Since I was 21. When I was 21, I started so 13 years.
Nice. Good for you. That takes I love being around entrepreneurs, right? And I exist mainly in the other world, in the professional world, but I just love, this is an entrepreneurial piece right here. And so is writing, and so is books, and so is speaking, but people that are fully entrepreneurs, so good on you. Thank you. What does that take? Because for those of us who are listening, perhaps who have not been entrepreneurs, you know, if you don't go to work one day, whatever, you're sick or something, or you're going on holiday for a week or whatever, your job is ultimately still there when you get back. But when you're an entrepreneur, if you're not getting up and if you're not going, nothing's happening. So what, and you know, you mentioned before when we were talking that you took some time off earlier this year. Was that an element of that kind of resting up to get back fully into the entrepreneurial journey, or how do you see it these days?
Yeah. So I started my first business when I was 21. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just super excited.
Yeah.
And this
sounds about right, which is good.
This is like one of my greatest strengths is I get really excited about something and then I just put all of the energy into it. And I did that with something that it took me a while to become successful with. It was a yoga business and it was a corporate yoga and personal development wellness business. We go into corporations and all that. And I got my first big client from a cold call because I was so excited. And that client I had for over 5 years.
Nice.
And people were asking me, how did you get that big client? Oh, I was just really excited. It was a cold call. So entrepreneurship, I feel, at least for me, when I feel like I'm in flow and I'm doing it properly, you said I'm a proper entrepreneur. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but that's nice that you see me that way. Is for me, it's really just really been about following my excitement and going all in and, figuring things out as I go. Like my first business, again, cold calls, a few corporate clients, big companies in Vancouver. Well, my business was happening right away, but I had no idea what I was doing. And then continually using that excitement forward and figuring it out as I go. But I wasn't super successful in my first business. Like I had some really great clients and I had a lot of opportunities. But I didn't feel successful. I felt like I was working too much. I felt like I was resentful almost towards my opportunities that I was getting. And eventually I shifted. But I think that happens because I'm a creative like you. I see you as a creative. And, but yeah, entrepreneurship for me is just going after what you love, going all in and knowing that excitement is probably like 90% of it. If you can get excited about something, like there's certain songs that I listen to and affirmations or riffs that I listen to on my phone in the morning that get me pumped. And I'm like, oh, like I can do anything. And so I think most of it's mindset and excitement. And then the other piece is like 20% grit and strategy. So if we can get aligned with our energy and in that flow, I think anything's possible. But I jumped into it blindly, didn't know what I was doing. I just continued to figure it out. And now I'm here.
Yeah. Well, when I say proper entrepreneur, I know it's no, I'm serious. It's very respectful because you own a place in Kamloops, right?
Yeah.
So you own a place. You've been doing your own thing, supporting yourself for 13 years as an entrepreneur. It's actually quite something. So
thank you.
Yeah, hope you have a moment perhaps every now and then and reflect on that. But how do you? Because I know I love creatives, and I'm honored that I appear as one as well, and I accept that. But a lot of creatives, and I'm kind of thinking specifically about some people I know. They get too excited with the creation, and they don't do that second part that you mentioned with the strategy and the follow through and the grit and the doing, like the boring part or whatever that may be. Yeah. So do you ever find yourself? And as you answer this question, I'm gonna go look at something over there and come back. So keep talking to me. I'm still in the house.
Okay.
But how do you not like get, and do you see this when people, they get too excited with the creation and they don't start just focusing and doing the doing? So how do you sort of choose what you're excited about and go with it?
Okay. I think this is a dance that I've been playing in for a long time, actually. So the first piece is, I think it's really about having the excitement to move it forward and diving into the creation, and also scheduling the time to do the practical things. So I think it's just about scheduling. It sounds so not sexy. It doesn't sound like this big, cool thing that you haven't heard somewhere else. But the reason why I get things done and things move forward is because I just put on my calendar. And so for me, like one of the creative dances that I've been in is I am a creative. I've launched a few different, maybe 4 different products in this business in the last 5 or so years, like, flagship products that have done really well. And there's a lot of things I haven't launched yet because I've been in creation mode. I've been in play mode, like behind the scenes where no one's seen me practice on the mic and write songs and I wrote a book like 10 months ago that hasn't come out because it's not the right timing for it yet. So there's like the creativity and jumping into it, but also, paying your bills and fulfilling the things that you need to do in your business to feel confident, to feel good, to be of service, and then prioritizing what you're working on. Because I think for creatives, I think the biggest block that I see within myself and the people that I serve is we're doing it all at once. And it's almost like we're like, oh, shiny opportunity syndrome. And I actually see that as if it's not in a container of, okay, on Saturdays, I'm going to jam and do music, or this month, I'm going to focus on this project, and we block things off. If it's not like that, I feel on the soul level, it's a high level way of sabotaging our potential. And then other people who are artists and don't care about business or whatever might say that's bullshit, and that's fine. But in like entrepreneurship, that's how I would structure it. So I'll like take time. You know, I went to Costa Rica 10 months ago and I just focused on my second book, and that's all I did. And so it's just about blocking it off and not allowing everything to bleed into every day of the week, because we can't do everything in one day if we want to feel good about ourselves, or I haven't experienced that fully.
Do you think it's kind of a, and I'm getting a little better at this, not like having a great idea, proclaiming how amazing it's going to be, yeah. Putting it out there, yeah. And then it not happening and kind of feeling and looking stupid, but it's kind of like an energy leak, right? If it's a huge energy leak, if people get excited and they have a program, or they even have a thought, and they video about it and they write about it and they just blast it all out all over the place, and then like nothing happens for the most part, or people just kind of get used to seeing this and watching this and like, oh, there's so and so had another thought, and it's and the facial expression there is so good. I'm an actor, but it's an energy leak thing. It's not a bad description for it.
I think that's a great description for it.
Yeah.
And it's an energy leak, and it's also kind of a way of like giving ourselves away. And so if you're really like wanting to build or nurture or grow something, we have a rule with the, like in the containers that I facilitate, is like, don't share your baby with the world until it's born and it's on legs and it's been nurtured. Because the worst thing you can do, I mean, the worst thing I did, but I was prepared for it because I was already kind of teaching this in my like programs, is like tell your ideas to people when you're not fully solid internally, you don't have a plan, and maybe you're a little wobbly. Maybe you still need that internal affirmation. Maybe you haven't shifted your identity, and our identity needs to shift in order to become that next version of whatever we're creating. I know that's been happening with my music, definitely happened with my book. It's happened with everything that I've done. There's always an identity shift. So if I'm telling everyone, I'm doing a TEDx talk and I'm nervous and I haven't had it written out, or I don't have a plan, or I'm not practicing, I'm not in the arena strengthening my muscles, mental, physical, all that, well, then I'm giving myself away to others. And I'm like, hey, what do you think of my dreams? Oh, why would you do a TEDx talk, or whatever the thing is, right? Whether it's a book or a project or acting, it's like we have to stop giving ourselves away and really honor our creativity and ourselves so that we can turn it into something. At least that's the way that I look at it. And, you know, when you have a baby, you know, it's in there for 9 months and it's getting the nutrients it needs, the support it needs, everything. And usually people who are pregnant don't necessarily tell everyone until they're like 3 or 4 months in. And I think that's a healthy kind of filter to have with our thoughts or our ideas or what we're creating, so that we are protecting the things that we're building. And our dreams, me personally, it's like one of the most important things to me, my dreams and my relationships.
Tell me more. Why? Yeah, because same. And so I was when Kevin Matheson was sitting here, he sort of took the different approach, because he's like, because I was telling him episode 2, check it out, it's amazing. I was telling him that I've gotten a little better. I've started proclaiming less my big dreams and my big goals to the universe, and I try to keep them to myself and make some headway. Like even with this podcast, like I kind of didn't reveal what it was to my 4 people until it was out and it was ready. It was ready to rock. Yeah. But he was a little bit opposite. He's like, well, I want to put my big things out there, and then the universe will help me help it happen. But so I sort of see both sides, and I sort of, I like your example of people saying they're going to write a book or do this, and then talking about it and getting the feedback from people, because maybe they aren't sure themselves if they can do it. So if they say it to other people, and they'll get that reflection of, oh, maybe they think I can, or maybe they think I can't. But yeah, it's that kind of loss of being grounded in it. But dreams, tell me what you wish about your dreams, because I get that, I really get that. I get like dreams, right? Dreams. Why dreams, and why are they so important, and how do you use yours to motivate you and not discourage you that you're not living them yet? What's your balance to how your relationship with your dreams?
Oh, wow. I feel like this is a multi-dimensional question.
I had the chanting music on earlier.
Okay. I feel like with, you said something earlier. I don't know if it was a question. And so I have a little bit of an incomplete loop. And so I was feeling into answering that question, and I'm not remembering it right now.
Yeah. Well,
was there a piece there?
Well, mainly I'm mostly interested in your dreams.
Yeah.
Whether or not you want to share what they are, but like, how do you use them? How do you think about them? How do you, like, do you write them down every day? Do you think about them before you go to sleep every night? And like, why are they so important for you? And what if they don't come true?
Okay. So whenever we have dreams or we have a vision, it's our higher intelligence, it's our higher self giving us a message. We don't have to fulfill on that. We don't have to. We're going to have a lot of creativity and insights and downloads in our life. I've had so many. I have, no joke, in storage, in Kamloops, I have like over 40 journals. And they're the nice journals from Banyan Books that are pricey. And because you look at the journal, I look at the journal, and I'm like, there's some gold in that journal. Like, it's just all of my dreams, all of my thoughts, all of my downloads. And to me, that's sacred. And so for me, I write them down. And I don't filter them, and I just allow it to flow. And that's a part of my process. And to be radically honest with you, a lot of those ideas from 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago are coming into fruition now. So I think our dreams, if we choose them, if we say yes to them and we want them, they're going to manifest as long as we're open to taking the step. So okay, dreams versus insights or downloads. We're going to get so much information because we're open channels if we're actually open to the universe. But not everything's for me. Like, I've had so many ideas. I'm like, that's a great idea. But do I actually want to do that? Is that aligned with who I want to be and the way I want to live my life? Oh, no, it's not actually my dream. It's a great idea. So I think knowing the difference between a great idea and like, oh, this is something my soul needs to do. So as far as like the fulfillment of a dream for me, like, I remember coming down to earth. Like, I remember having a vision of like looking down on the world and waking up in this life. And I remember exactly what my mission and my vision is on earth. It may show up as a lot of different things. I never thought I would do music. I never thought I would do a lot of the things, but the core essence of it is waking up humanity, waking up people, first myself, right, to the truth of who they are and who they're meant to be, which is awakening, and then helping planetary leaders support, and then also teaching unconditional love. So those are like the deepest essence of my dreams or the messages, but the actual fulfillment of the dream could be me traveling around the world on stages doing music. It could be me teaching yoga, which I don't actually do. It could be all these things. So it's like, I, as Deidre, like, my humanness gets to pick the vehicle. And that's really cool, because I think a lot of the time in life, at least what I notice with people talking about purpose and dreams is, oh, it needs to be this vehicle. It's like, well, no, it doesn't. That's your ego having a view of how you want to be seen. But like, the fulfillment of your purpose and your dream isn't necessarily the construct of some sort of, it doesn't have to be delivered in one way.
No.
Yeah. Does it make sense? I feel like I'm kind of rambling, talking circles over here.
No. Yeah. I always love and appreciate your conversations and your insights. And what if so how is and I've asked myself this question often many times, like how is acting, or how is singing on stage, like how is kind of doing these personal selfish things for ourselves, how is that helping to awaken anyone else?
Okay, so first of all, I saw your show and it was fucking brilliant. It was so good. And I saw the first draft of it when we were in the practice mode. Massive shift. Like I was like on the edge of my seat. And I was like, that's my friend. You know, it's so good. And you know, what I loved about your performance was you were totally yourself. You were funny. You were honest about the ideas of who you thought you should be and how to get there and the whole process. There's lots of different messages there. And just witnessing it, it like made me laugh and was like, why do we take this stuff so seriously? Like I had a lot of personal insights from that. And I was like, I felt really connected to you. And I was like, this show that you did is healing for people. It helps people remind themselves not to take things so seriously. And there's so much smoke and mirrors in the influencer and online space. It's ridiculous. And most things on the internet aren't even real, to be honest. And there's a lot of people who might not be actually the embodiment of what they teach. And that's all true. And your show gives that message in a funny way. So guess what? Through your selfish act, which was not selfish, it was because your soul was like, I want to do this for me. But in that experience, the people that received it, you gave them insight, you gave them healing, you gave them permission to be all parts of themselves in their healing process too. So that's a gift, right? So it's not selfish.
Yeah, no. And for the listeners, the show is called Guys Don't Journal.
It's so good.
Also,
it's so good.
2022 Vancouver Fringe Festival 1 hour solo show that I did, which is a little 13 months ago now, which is not much of any of a acting background, like engineering background. And so turn the book into a TEDx, turn the TEDx into a one-man solo show. It is on the same YouTube page as this podcast. And it was great. It was amazing. So I appreciate you saying so. I love getting that mirror from close friends that saw it. It was really cool, the close friends that showed up that I had not seen in a while that came to see it. But I totally am on board with your answer. It's sort of like the living of our highest self gives others the permission to do their own. And we need to all take all of this a lot less seriously.
Oh my gosh.
What do you see in these days? What do you see and where you're like, come on, like it's not, or maybe in the influencer space or the coaching space, like what is grinding your gears the most?
Yeah, I love it. And I just want to add something to what you just said there around giving our gift or expressing ourselves. Is we give other people permission to do the same, but we also give other people a gift that we don't even know. Like it would be so cool, Michael, to have every single person at the end of your show say what was a learning or a win that they had from witnessing you in their life. Because I'm sure the whole crowd, everyone probably would have said something different, and that's the impact. So we don't even know our impact.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So I think the thing you said, did you say what's grinding me, or what did you say?
Yeah, I've seen some eye rolls and some cringes when we talk about what you're seeing in the online space. And I mean, I spent an hour on TikTok this morning, which is wild. But I saw some guys talk, or tick, whatever you call when you make a video, and he's like, how do I use AI to make 100 videos in 1 hour? And I'm like, no, why? No, thank you. Because nobody needs to see all that content, right? It's not even real content. The content is getting created by a computer, and we probably aren't even watching it. There's probably computers watching it on the other end. So like you said, there's so much of what is online is not real.
I mean, it's been like that for a long time now. Most things don't irk me. Like the things that get me going is people who are unkind and want to tear other people down. or hurt people. Those are the things that will irk me, and I will be mama bear and be like, rah, right? But as far as like online stuff, I think one of the things that I tell my clients a lot, and I remind myself a lot too, is that a lot of people who are in the online space that look very super flashy and super successful, a lot of them are faking it. Or are paying for it. There are agencies that you pay to get 100,000 people behind your name. So it's like the more I learn about entrepreneurship, but more from like thought leadership space, the more I can see behind the veil of a lot of people who have 50, 100K plus followers on social media. Not all of them, but most of them have had an agency or have paid for that. And it doesn't mean that they're not legit followers. So that's okay. Like none of this irks me. I just love whenever I teach people like in the online business space and with what I do, like talking and business, it's like, I just like to give people the full scope so that they're not comparing themselves to someone who paid $50,000 to an agency.
But it's frustrating because you help people mainly in their online businesses, coaches, speakers, authors, etc.,
yeah,
and other sorts of businesses
right,
as well.
Yeah.
But it's got to be frustrating for them when they start a new account and like nobody's watching and they have all this good stuff or all these good products and all these good services.
Yeah.
So how do you what do you say to them to not let them get discouraged that it appears that nobody is watching their stuff?
Well, you don't need a big following to do well financially in business. I actually lost my Instagram account a year and a half ago. It was hacked and I had to restart. So I've been like, whatever. I don't look at Instagram or social media as a metrics of success at all. That's like small game that's doing what everyone else is doing and being popular. Most people go on social media, Instagram specifically, to be entertained. So if I'm going to be an entertainer, then giddy up, right? Like, let's do it. But like for me, I don't use it as a platform to necessarily get clients. I use it as a platform to add the things that I'm up to and all of that. And there are different things that I will be doing to support my social media, but my social media isn't my business. I teach people specifically how to get booked on stages, how to step more into the thought leadership space and create a sustainable business of real opportunity and real depth and sustainability online that doesn't rely on social media. Mm-hmm. So when I think about numbers, like, yeah, okay, well, that's a popularity contest that you're not going to win. Mm-hmm. And if you're just going to give the audience whatever they want, are you actually aligned? And my company is called Radically Aligned. So it's like, are we giving our power away to some platform to be popular? Mm-hmm. Or are we actually doing our soul's work? Getting into our own lane, looking at what we love to do and what our gifts are. And like for me, I'm not interested, and I probably will do some of this, but I'm not interested in spending a ton of time on social media. And maybe hiring someone to do more of that for me would be great. I did have someone in the past, but I love speaking on stages. You can throw me on stage in front of anyone and I could like be there for 10 days, entertaining and teaching people whatever. So I know my lane and my zone of genius, and I help other people know their lanes. And if you can use social media to complement that and to show your gifts, great. But if you're using it as a means of like, this equals success or popularity, you're in your ego, and the ego wants you to compare yourself to other, because guess what? It's going to block you from being who you're meant to be. And like, it's an app, like it's not real. Like today I forgot my phone inside 3 times today when I left my place to run errands. I almost forgot on the way here and I was like, fuck. I'm like, I don't know his address, right? And I was like, this is such a good thing because I don't even know where my phone is. So it just depends on where you're doing your marketing and how and what you make it mean. And I think perspective is everything. Yeah, especially as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, the apps are they're meant to be addictive, right? They're meant to keep us on there. And my happiest moments throughout the week are when I go for a walk and my phone sits right there and it doesn't come on the journey with me. It's really, I don't think too many people do that, but it's there's something, because when even if you go for a walk and your phone is in your pocket, you're kind of always thinking about your phone and when it's going to buzz or something's on it to an extent. But if you leave it at home, you get this break, and then whatever that connection is gets a little bit of a rest.
Yeah. And boundaries, I think, is so important. We were talking about this before we, started recording. Like, you were like, do you have your phone off? I'm like, Mike, my phone's always off, because it's like, it's very difficult to get a hold of me unless I'm playing music and you're interrupting my music. Because like, if your phone rings, I think even if it's on silent, it will interrupt it as like a pause. So unless I'm listening to music or I'm on my phone or I'm, expecting a phone call, my ringer's off, because I don't want people to have immediate access to me. But that's the way that I like to live my life. And the way I have boundaries in my business is so that I can live the life that's sacred and important to me, so I can be creative and have fun and not be like worrying about likes or how many people have messaged me. It's like, we get to live our life on our own terms. And I don't think enough entrepreneurs and people who are going after their dreams really get that. Like, we were just talking about you and like your career, like you're in the driver's seat, and like, how cool is that? Like, you get to pick.
Right? Yeah, it's no, it's definitely fun. And I was going to pick up on what you said about dreams again, because one of the other things I asked earlier is how do you, and I'm doing a better job at this as well. I don't think I did a very particular great job, say 2, 3, 4, or 5 years ago with this, but it's called everyone else knows it. It just kind of taken me a while to get there. It's called patience.
I was leaning down, I'm like, Michael, what's the word? I'm like, I need to know.
I saw you lean in. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I'm better than I thought here.
Yeah, totally.
Patience, right? And patience, and kind of, certain dreams that I have, they're probably going to take the rest of my life, right? Yeah. 40 years, 30 years, 20 years.
Cool?
Isn't that cool? Like, what else am I going to do?
I know.
What else? Like, if that's what someone else was saying to me the other day. Like, if we all just walked outside and all our dreams just instantly occurred, then like it'd be chaos. But what would the challenge be? And you wouldn't learn anything.
Yeah. And just to riff on that for a second, it's like, it is the journey. Like, it feels good to like achieve things. I could say high achiever. I love the feeling of hitting a goal. It's really fulfilling for me. And I love the feeling of always moving forward. But also, like, one of the things I've realized is my dream has been pretty consistent. It hasn't really shifted too much. Everything, like, there's different ways that I'm expressing the dream and living the dream and contributing the dream. But also, just another piece is, it's okay to change the dream. I think that we go through different phases. I'm in a different phase of my life right now where it's like, I don't feel like I need to prove anything. And so I feel very different. I feel very different about my dream. It's like, I'm not in a push, force, trying to make anything happen. It's happening because I am the dream. Like, I have created the dream within myself. Like, I feel the way that I want to feel. I value myself. I love my relationships. I love my life. So naturally, I'm living the dream. Nice. But it might not be an idea of the dream based on goals, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The dream is a feeling.
It's a feeling.
I actually get that and appreciate that from you. And I kind of understand that more than I perhaps would in the past. But you also have, if people are listening, they're wondering like, what's your dream? What's your dream? Like, what are your, and those are perhaps some of the things that you don't share, what your goals are.
I can share some of them.
Share away.
Some of them.
This is a safe space.
This is a safe space. We're in Michael's living room. It's perfect.
It's almost fire season, right? And it's getting kind of chilly in here.
It's perfect. Okay. So yeah, like, the dream is, I feel like I'm living the dream and I'm fulfilling the dream. But like, a specific dream of mine is to be a New York Times bestselling author. And I know that that's happening. Like, I already know it. I feel it. I'm working towards it. That's pretty big. But that's like people could say, oh, is that an egoist dream? No, maybe. It's something that I'm going to get there. And, I'd like to turn my next book into a movie and get it picked up by a network. And yeah, I'd like my book to sell millions of copies, because the book is really, really powerful. I'm not going to talk too much about the book, because I'm not going to be talking about that work until the new year. But the dream is to get that work out it to as many people as possible, because it's about helping people heal and accept themselves and come back to love within self, like unconditional love, essentially, is the message, without saying too much about the message. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
yeah. I mean, I would also have New York Times on my list. Not sure how and when, but I also, I'm like, well, if this is my life, that would be cool.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
If you like, the Writers Festival is on right now.
Oh, is it?
So there's a couple, we shall chat. There's a couple interesting events, because it's a lot. There's a lot of New York Times bestselling authors down on Granville Island this week.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I was at an event Monday night, and I'm going some on Friday. But it's those kind of rooms we need to be in, right?
Yeah.
If those dots are gonna get connected.
I want an invite for Friday. Can you tell me the details later?
Yeah. Well, Lauren Groff, she's a great author. I heard her speak a couple years ago, and she's written Fates and Fury and Matrix. I love Fates and Fury so much. It's an incredible book. But these, and then Monday night was all the Giller Prize finalists.
Okay,
that
cool.
Scotiabank Giller Prize. So these are like writers. These are authors. So it's really. But these are the rooms.
Yeah.
And then see a Sunrise Person. She wrote. I've had her on some of my Instagram lives in the last little while. Hopefully, get her on this show recently. But she wrote North of Normal, and then Beyond Normal, I believe, was her second memoir. But she recently, and she wrote those 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. But those books are now that it's a movie. And it's on Apple, and I believe it's on Netflix, and it's in theaters this past year. So she's done it. So my point being, like, I'm like, I want that as well. So I got to be around these people and just kind of see how they do it, and get the introductions, get the connections, learn how to be a way better writer, learn how to act if I want to be the one acting in my movie.
That's
right?
actually one of my dreams, is to be the main actress in my own movie.
Well, and acting it's so cool. It's so challenging. But it helps you in so many other facets of your life, because the best actors aren't putting on a mask or really acting at all. They're just totally just being themselves and tapping into different situations and feelings that they've been in. So the amount, that's what I loved about doing the show like last year. Because like you said, the version you saw in June versus the one you saw in September, night and day.
Oh, big difference.
But I went through it.
That was so
I went through it last summer. And Megan and David, the co-directors, they put me through it.
Yeah.
Because I had to become the person that could share those stories from an authentic place, not from like putting it on.
Yeah.
So it's what's really cool about acting and singing as well is if you don't put in the work between the sessions, you can tell.
Oh, for sure.
You can tell when you're on stage performing and doing something in front of people. They'll be like, she didn't do her homework. Didn't do the work. The same, you're doing the same performance that you did yesterday. It hasn't changed at all. You haven't done the work. You can't hide it or fake it when you're on stage.
And it's subtle too. Like the interesting thing about speaking, even whether you're speaking on stage, TEDx, whatever, or you're acting or you're singing, it's your voice and it's your openness. And it really is about embodiment, and it's very subtle. Like it's not something, at least for me in my experience with singing and also speaking, it's subtle, and it's not something my mind can really wrap around. So, for me, I just started singing like a year and a bit ago, and now I have a whole album, and I was afraid to even sing in front of anyone, because I had never really done that before, unless it was karaoke, like back in the day. Right. And just like, just like making, having some good times with some friends. But,
they call it being on voice.
On voice.
That's what the actor crowd.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. And it's a thing.
Like on voice.
On voice.
Tell me about that.
It's when you are sharing, how you and I would talk without the cameras being on. Okay. Is your authentic voice. So if you can do that when you're on stage or in front of people, and you can see when people go are new to public speaking or something, when they pick up the microphone, their voice goes a little higher sometimes.
Oh, I used to have that.
We all did.
Yeah.
We all did.
Yeah.
When do you ever see your like your memories on Facebook or Instagram?
Oh,
I know.
No, please don't.
But come on, that's good. But that's exactly it. That shows
So
the
bad.
growth, right? And
so bad.
like I you know, my favorite pastime is going through my Instagram and deleting all my old videos. I'm like, man, good for you. But oh my God, it's
well,
boring.
you got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
but it shows the growth.
Yeah,
and so being on voice is the ability to have that authentic voice, and you can tell, and people really, and it's important when you're talking, doing something live or even something on camera, because if you're not having that authentic on voice, there's a mask and there's a barrier put up, and you won't be able to connect with the audience or the listeners, and they'll go, well, this person's hiding something.
Or they're putting on a show.
Yes.
And it's entertaining, which is okay. Like, I think I'm entertaining sometimes. I do, like, a little something.
I'm in your jacket.
It's my sparkle era, so this is we were a lot of sparkle.
It's my sparkle era.
But I think that it's like there's a difference between putting on a show, like you are, because sometimes we do put on a show and it's appropriate, like dancing on stage. Like I used to be a performer. It's like there's a show that's being put on. And I think there's a difference between putting on a show or being on a stage where you need to project your voice and be somebody for something, a show, versus like, hey, how's it going? This is where I'm at. And maybe in a room full of like hundreds of people, not even hundreds, we'll say like Tony Robbins. Okay, perfect example. Tony Robbins, love the guy. Have you been to Unleash the Power?
I've been to like a one-day thing here in Vancouver with him.
Okay,
so
what it was called. He's putting on a show. There's no way he's like that all day, every day. It's a part of his personality that he leverages at his events to keep people's attention and to get them motivated. And that's a great thing. It's a tool. After that, he's doing ice baths. He's doing self-care. He's working on his throat game because he has like some stuff going on in his throat and a lot of other things. So when we look at that, he's like, okay, I'm going to be on stage. I'm going to be helping like, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people in this arena. And I'm going to be authentically myself. And I'm also putting on a show in a way that this is formulated in a way that I know that it works. But I also need to use my voice and my body and my physicality as a tool to get people to feel a certain way. So it's like, it's an interesting space between like full authenticity, which is just us chilling right now. I mean, if I wasn't coming to your place right now, I may not have curled my hair. I may not have like put on the earrings, looks great. But like, what? I wasn't wearing this 10 minutes before you got here. Yeah, maybe you were wearing like I was wearing my house coat outfit or something. My house coat or his house coat. So it's like we all present ourselves in certain ways to fit in or for the occasion, and we have parts of our personality that we can use for us. The problem is, and this is like some of like the more inner work that I help people do, and I've done a lot of this on myself, still working on it, is like understanding my foundational personality. This is like traumas, imprints, who I think I am, who I think I should be, what other people love about me, right? Oh, what's that? Is that a good thing or bad thing? What do you mean? Oh, I say it like this. I'm like, well, it's like sometimes we can build, and I say I built a life in my past life within this reality where I was so good at being the woman, the person that was like, everything's great. I was like the motivator. I was like Tony Robbins, but like D style, right? Yeah. So I was so good at giving people what they wanted and loved from me versus being authentic. So our personality, like one of the reasons why I love deconstructing the personality is because there are different parts of us that we can leverage, like my example with Tony Robbins. But then there's also the authentic version of us that's just like, this is just how I am today. But if I were to go on stage at like one of my events today, I would be bringing the energy. I'd be like pumping up the music and changing my state so that I could perform in a way. I would still be in alignment with myself and my goals and my vision and my dreams and my service, but I may not be like staying in a state that's not serving my goal. Yeah. And I think there's something to be said, or like there's an energetic difference, and it's more subtle, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then how do, I guess,
because it's a tough thing to work on. I don't think there's any better way for public speakers to work on it other than doing more public speaking.
Yeah.
Because how you get more, it's a bit about being comfortable on stage. So it's about going through the reps and doing it. And I did Toastmasters for a year and a half. I did a bunch of Karen's programs, did Evolutionary Business Council, all really high level programs that really fortunate to be a part of, and others speaking in the engineering space. I did a 1 hour talk last week at the American Society for Quality, and I rocked it.
Amazing.
Oh boy, it was. Well, the one thing I do need to work on is bringing a little bit more humor to my talks. It was a little bit too serious for 8:30 in the morning, but I rocked it. Like, I had 80 people with me for 50 minutes,
and it
was lit up. But it's, so if people are listening and they're just starting in their public speaking or putting content on online, is there a better way to get on voice, to get this authentic voice? Or do you think it's just keep going out there and keep making those awkward videos?
Yeah, I think it's the awkward videos. Like, my awkward videos when I first started, I remember my first talk that I did, people said I was good, but I think they were just being nice. Like, I was totally like, like, you know, like high energy, high voice, like not in my body, probably just like avoiding the anxiety that I had. But I feel like doing the reps is the only way. It's kind of like spiritual bypassing. Like, if we think about it, I think there's a bypassing that's happening in entrepreneurship and potentially in relationship work, not relationship work. We're just going to say in relationships, in healing and spirituality. And also, I think I mentioned entrepreneurship business. Sometimes we're like, oh, I don't want to do this part. This part's not fun. Yeah. So I'm going to overcompensate and just position myself here in a way. And I feel like reps is the way, practice is the way. I remember I spent a whole year, and like, if you know my personality, I get bored easily. I need to, like, I love depth. I love mastery, and anything I do, I usually suck at the beginning, but I end up being really, really, really good at it later on. And it's like just doing the reps, doing the work. You know, you can't bypass doing the work. I spent a whole year. This is what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought for a second. Kind of like when I did my TEDx, but I kept going.
Yep.
Yeah, I spent a whole year working on my core story of my signature talk. And like, I help people create their signature talks, not in like it has to be super structured. There is some structure to it so that if you're on a podcast, a stage, whatever, you know how to feel your story and get, as you said, on voice. But I spent a whole year on my story. And you know what? The story sucked. I hated the story. And my mentor at the time was like, this is the story. And I was like, I don't want to tell this story. This is like, I am so not living that story anymore. And I was like, well, I'm paying this person a lot of money, so I should listen to them because they're master at telling stories. And a whole year on 1 2-minute story. And now I have a structure for all other stories, but that story is really good.
That story you still tell. That story is still in there.
I do, but internally,
you're kind of like, it's an old story.
You know, I was in conversation with my friend Lance before we were in Alberta for an event very recently, and he's like, "Dee, you need to tell a new story."
Yeah, I know Lance.
Oh yeah.
We I know him, but we actually hung out in person in Mexico almost 2 years ago now.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Super cool. Is it the hair story? The hair falling out?
It's the hair story. Yeah. You've heard it, right?
Well, has anyone heard my divorce story? Probably a million times, right?
Yeah.
But but what do we do with that, right? They're like, these are how, our vulnerable stories that people connect with us with, and these are transformational times of our lives, but they're not our only stories. So what do we do with these stories?
Well, the story's good. Stories are good if you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's conflict. You know this from acting. There's like some sort of win or insight or growth where you're able to teach people. And there's the younger version of you that didn't maybe know you were in something that you were in. So my story is about losing a chunk of hair and my soul telling me I was going to die from cancer in a year. and me having a wake up call and choosing something different, choosing a new life. I don't have to tell the story. But the thing with those stories is it touches people who are in a part of that story right now, and they feel it within their body. So the more personal we make our story and the more we can be in alignment with how we actually felt. Like a big part of the work that I did with storytelling was breaking down the armor of like, oh, that must have really sucked. You were in a mentally and emotionally abusive relationship. Oh, that must have been really hard for you. And I would always be like, no, I'm
no,
tough.
no.
Good.
Yeah, it was hard or whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, let's move on. Let's talk about something more interesting. But like a big part of the work with that was like me actually being like
that was hard.
That was really hard. Like I felt worthless after that relationship. And that's probably roughly when I met you, was just after that relationship ended. I felt worthless. I thought I had nothing going for me. And I still, even though I've done so much healing, sometimes that stuff still comes up for me where I'm like, oh wow, like that, it made an impact, and such a beautiful impact, the flip side of it, because I've been able to support so many people with different aspects of that. But also me bypassing, right? And we do this as entrepreneurs and in life. We want to just talk about how great we are or all the positive highlights. And I'm guilty of it too, because I love to bring my best self to people. And that's before I leave my house. I'm bringing my best self to people. I'm not bringing my day or my stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I love to leave people in a better place. But as far as like connection, truth, being on voice, and being a good public speaker and connecting with people, whether it's a book or acting or whatever, it's like we actually have to get real with the stuff that sucks and feel it and share our voice from that place, because that's the magic of connection. And so for me, telling that story of losing my hair, abusive relationship, the old version of me was like, oh, I sound like a victim. I never want to be a victim. Like I am not a victim. But it's like, you're not a victim, Dee, but this is a good story that helps other people see themselves in their own story and take the actions that's going to help them evolve. And that's worth telling. So story development is huge.
Yeah, nice. That's if you remember in the show that I did last year, the solo show in the
it's so good.
So good. Like,
it was so freaking good.
I actually watched I've only watched the video of it once. I watched it with my dad about a month or so after the actual live event. I was like, and I was able to watch it, and I can't pay attention to anything, right? And I watched the whole 50 minutes. I was like, it's actually quite good. Yeah. Quite gripping. But the like scene 2 or whatever it is, I get angry.
Yeah.
And so Megan and David, the co-directors, like we worked on that hard because the same sort of thing. Like I wasn't willing to get angry in front of other people because whatever that weakness that shows, right? But so I specifically remember rehearsal we were doing at the Vancouver Film School late July or early August last year, where like Megan Phillips, brilliant singer, brilliant actress, was in my face fucking yelling at me.
Yeah.
Like calling me shit, throwing shit at me, screaming at me.
Oh my gosh.
Just to get me to do the same to her. Because I wouldn't. I'd be like, oh, stop. No, I'm angry. And she's like, yell at me. And so I'll start yelling at her, and then David's sitting there. He's just taking notes and stuff. He's like, these guys are professionals, right? They're sorting me out. But and then we start throwing stuff around the room, like happens in the actual show. But that took a lot of work to get to that space, because we don't want to be perceived, especially if we're leaders and authors and speakers and we're motivational. Often we have this belief that we can't be ever seen as being angry.
Well, the flip side of that, if we hold in our anger, it turns into depression. It turns into self-anger because we haven't released it. And it's funny that you're talking about anger, because I'm having a flashback to when I got into boxing. And at first, in my boxing classes, I was so weak. I don't know why. I consider myself a strong person. I've always been an athlete, but I was like, I thought I was given it, but I was like weak it was embarrassing. And I was like, man, like I saw people beside me and I'm like, how are they just crushing it? Right. And then I started to, and this just kind of organically happened, but I recommend this to everyone, especially women. If you're a woman, if you're a woman, if you are a woman,
if you're women,
if you're women, if you're a woman, um, and you want to step into your power, you better get connected to your anger. So I was in boxing and I was weak for a while. And then I started just to imagine people's faces of people who like betrayed me, hurt me, backstabbed me, whatever. And I just went nuts on that bag. And I remember, and all of a sudden I was like this beast. And the teacher was like, wow, like you're like really like doing it. And I just picture people's faces. And I think that anger isn't talked about enough. There's not enough safe places for it. It's something that I've considered like posting something. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't think I'm leaking my energy about this, but maybe I am. But I've thought about like, you know, what if there was a safe space to like experience your anger where it was like encouraged? And maybe that's something that I could bring to Vancouver for fun for people. But yeah, so I was in boxing, crushing it. And I remember I was going through something really challenging. I was away. I was in San Diego for a few months living there, came back, and I was crushing the bag. And the guy, Arvin, was like, whoa, girl, who hurt you? Who hurt you? And he was like, damn, girl. And I was like, because I was nuts on the bag. And the past version of me, again, it's not okay to get angry. It's not okay to express this. And I would just sweep things under a rug. And part of it was like, you know what? I didn't have a backbone and I didn't own my worth and I didn't own my place in the world. And I think that me stepping more into my, as I call, sacred rage, I was able to be like, you know what? Like, no, you don't get access to me, or no, that's not okay. And not from a place of anger, but from a place of like healthy boundaries. Like if someone betrays you or backstab you or whatever the thing is multiple times, see you later. I don't give people 3 chances anymore. I used to give people countless chances. Oh, that's not their higher self. Now I'm like, one time you're out. And doesn't mean people can't be human. No one's perfect. But if someone intentionally does something, I'm like, you're out. And it's because I value myself. And I feel like a big part of that, Michael, was because I tune into my anger. So it's like, I think that is a big, a powerful process for people to go through so that we can own our value, our worth, our body, our boundaries, and step into our power.
Nice.
Yeah. This game changer. I love that you brought that up. I was just like, oh my gosh, flashbacks. I'm like, who's this chick in boxing?
I spent some time at Rumble over in Yaletown, hitting that bag pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? There's something about it, right? And I don't think that was a necessarily time in my life I'd like to return to in that headspace, but that certainly helped though, because I can't really imagine not having that outlet. But is that all that you describe right there? That this anger and dealing with that in a healthy way is that the definition of shadow work?
So okay, there's a few different definitions of shadow work that I've heard. The best way for me to describe shadow work from my own experience is something that is unseen. So, you know, a part of my brand is called Turn Your Light On. It's about waking up to who you are and who you're meant to be. When I think about turning your light on, you can like look around and see things clearly. You're like, oh, weird, that painting's on sideways, or oh, weird, that doesn't belong here. Oh, shit, what is that? You know? So when we turn our light on, we're able to see where everything is and what needs to go, what we need to clean out of our house, our physical, mental, emotional, energetic body, etc. And so when I think of shadow work, I think of it as a way of like starting to look at parts of ourselves that we haven't really seen that are in the dark. And one of the ways that I can think of it is like, you know, shadow work. And I'll give you an example after of something that I went through. It's kind of like, did you ever like run up the stairs when you were younger? Like because you were afraid of the dark or something? No. Did you ever, were you like afraid like that there was like a boogeyman or anything like underneath of your
No, never.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely did not happen.
Flexing and looking really manly.
So funny. Okay. So for me in our childhood home, if I would be going up the stairs, you'd have to turn off the light in the basement, and then it'd be dark. I would run up because I had a fear that there was like the boogeyman or something was going to chase me. So when I think about shadow work, I think about like, oh, there's a boogeyman underneath of my bed. There's a monster in my closet, and we haven't turned the light on. We're not willing to look. So shadow work to me is beginning to look. I think it's very similar to my turn your light on work, is how I see it. But the first time I really started to experience maybe more of the essence of shadow work, I could be wrong, is when I was in Mexico a couple years ago. I was writing my book, and I remember being in a relationship with someone, and the relationship was over. It was done. It was a short-lived relationship. And I remember being so like feeling so free after, and like self-expressed, and also like just not like sexy, like I'm trying to get attention from people, but just like, finally, I can just like dress the way I dress. I can just do what I do without worrying about someone else or whatever. There was something kind of coming to the surface. And so for me, the shadow aspect that came up for me was like, in the past, I would be like, oh no, like you need to dim yourself down. You're not allowed to be sexy. You're not allowed to be happy. A relationship just ended. Like there was all this stuff that I wasn't aware of until I was so excited and relieved that the relationship was over, because I could finally just be without the dynamic that was going on. And I had to move through like this shame of like, oh, like I've programmed myself on some level that it's not okay to be happy. It's not okay to be fully expressed. It's not okay to have what I want. And then it's not okay to be happy after this relationship ended. And it was like super liberating. So it's challenging for me to fully articulate it, because for me, that aspect of self that revealed itself came on really quick, and it brought up a lot of guilt and shame that I had to clear. And once I was able to move through that, I was like, my life is awesome. It's a party. Everything's great. And then I was like, can I really be this happy, and can everything be great? And it's like, yeah, it can be. You can just be. And so there was some parts of self that revealed, and I was like, this is a lot. Nice. So shadow work, it's challenging for me to fully articulate it.
Yeah, I'm always trying to get interested in people's definitions so I can understand my own. I remember when I first started thinking about it, it was back in sort of my love and light era, where every
love and light, or
where you think everything is beautiful and everything is great, and none of that is inside of you. Like you are not capable of any sort of anger or negative thoughts or doing anything wrong. Like if those thoughts even come up at all, you're like, oh no, that's not me. I'm pure. I'm pure love and light. So I don't go there. That's the other people. So where I see it is like this journey of shadow work is acknowledging that those are in you. It's those I can totally, go down to the coffee shop and destroy the place if I wanted to. I could do it in 10 minutes. I could be down there, but I choose not to, right? I choose not to go there, and I can be angry. I can be pissed off at all sorts of things, but I choose not to go there. But it is in me. I'm not pure and sacred from those sorts of thoughts and feelings.
It's like knowing what you're capable of.
Yeah. It's choosing, it's knowing, it's not, I think it's not judging others that are doing things that we choose not to do, and thinking that there's no way I could do that.
Oh yeah.
We could do that, but for whatever reason we choose not to. But it doesn't mean we're morally sacred and beyond and better than they are.
Yeah, I love this too. And on the note of judgment, there's so much projection. That's something that I find is relevant everywhere. because I could see something about you and be like, oh, this is what's going on for him. And that's why, as a coach, actually, I just want to bring this up because you mentioned this earlier, like what bothers you about coaching? It's like, I think it's really important as a coach to spend less time talking unless you're actually like teaching something. Like I teach a lot of things in my business. But like when you're working with someone, don't make assumptions. Like I think it's so easy to make assumptions about people based on like how they look, their facial expressions, like how they dress, what they say. We can make all of these assumptions based on someone, based on our own experience, and project that onto them. And I think that that's something that's really common in the coaching space. And I think that's why a lot of people have really horrible experiences with coaches, which gives coaching a bad rep. But also, there's people who have amazing experiences with coaches and it's transformational. And it's like they're comparing it to a decade or whatever of therapy or whatever. It's an accelerator in their life and business. So, but in life too, all relationships, we're always kind of projecting and we're like, oh, like this person looked at me funny, or oh, this is why they did that. And I don't think we have enough curiosity. And, you know, one of the things we talked about before we recorded was we were in your kitchen talking about I took a few months off this year. And it was because I was feeling really disconnected from myself and my business. And you asked this earlier, but I didn't answer. And I just felt like I needed to like just do nothing because I was just so used to do, be, crate. And so I took 3 months off. And in those 3 months, I went to Mexico, like had a lot of fun, ate a lot of tacos, like, you know, static dance and all of that. And after my 3 months of taking time off, aside from my business was still running, I really did some self-reflection of like, how did I get here? How did I get to a point where I was like, I just need to take 3 months off? Because I've never done that. Like, just like, I need to just stop. Right. And I started to see how there were some people in my field. And I don't mean like business field. I just mean like my physical surrounding people that I saw who were projecting a lot of stuff on me. And I was receiving it as true almost, or I was kind of not really
what they wanted you to do, or what they thought you should be doing, or how they saw you.
Yeah, exactly. So I had I'm just gonna I had someone who projected a lot of stuff onto me. They're a great person, big heart, just thought they were helping me, but were actually like very belittling. And it just was like a really weird situation. And so every time I was around that person, and they probably don't even know they were doing it, but they were just telling me about how I'm not enough, how I'm not doing enough. And they were talking to me like I like was kind of stupid almost. Like I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a mentor or anything like that. It was just someone that I was like in my field that I was seeing, I was bumping into a lot. And I was in kind of a low time emotionally because my dad had been going through cancer treatments, and just emotionally I was like feeling pretty exhausted, to be honest. And like anyone who's like had a parent that's sick or going through something, like it can be very consuming on like an energy level. So I was in kind of like a lower energetic space, bit emotional. And then I had this person projecting a lot of limitations on me, and they were telling me what I can't do. And it was just casual conversation, but they were so confident. And I remember being on my phone one day with my friend Lindsay, and I was like, oh my gosh, I lost my mojo for a few months there. And I was like, it's because I've been in this community with this person who's been projecting on me and putting all these limitations. And also because I'm more influenceable because I'm in a lower state. Probably wasn't taking as good of care of myself as I could have because of, you know, all, like what was going on with my family. And then I also had a client from hell.
Oh, juicy.
We talk about.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that today because I was thinking about how you've been in this for a while, and so you got especially in the coaching world or running programs, online business. Yeah, you're gonna come across that, and so you got to have a thick skin. Yeah, and so you've developed that.
I mean, you know what? I will say people, I think it's my Aries external, like me being like, I'm very bold and direct. I don't really like, I'm just, you know me, I'm very direct. And
That you are. That you are.
I'm like, I wonder what you're thinking about. But yeah, so for me, it was just I had a client from hell. I haven't had many bad clients, to be honest. I've been very, very lucky. I'm actually, what I was wanting to say there was, people might think I'm super strong, and I am. Like I am a very strong person, resilient, and I'm also a very sensitive person. If I let you into my inner circle or like under my wing, or you're like in my world, I care about you and I am more sensitive. But like most of the world, I'm pretty like strong, but with my inner circle, I'm very sensitive. I'm a sensitive person. And so I attracted a client from hell, which people don't really talk about. Everyone's like, oh, everything's perfect all the time. It's like, no, we've all had a client or two from hell in our career. And I've been doing this for like 6 years. I've probably only had like maybe 2 or 3 clients that weren't the best. But it's always been like, okay, they're just not the right fit. But this person came on real hot, was like, I want to work with you. You're amazing. And they like put me on this big pedestal, which is like a red flag to me. I don't want anyone to put me on a pedestal because pedestals are illusions. And also sometimes it's like there's a disconnect between reality and, you know, like the real truth of something versus like someone's imagination of like what you're going to help them with. And I think there's a disconnection and delusion in the coaching industry that a lot of people hire a coach because they're like, wow, that person's really sparkly or really cool or whatever. And they think that they're going to have that life from working with them when really they're helping you with a specific skill or step. And I think that a lot of people, you know, who aren't satisfied in the coaching space, there's not realistic expectations up front and they're in delusionville. I talk about this a little bit in my book. Sometimes we do that in relationships. Sometimes we do that in business and life, all the ways, right? And delusionville is a place where we make things something that it's not, and we tell ourselves a story, and then we're upset when we see the truth when the truth has always been there. So this client, I won't get too much into detail. They're not local or anything like that. But came on really strong, put me on a pedestal, and I was de-pedestaling myself. I was like, listen, you're great. I know you want to work with me in this container, and this is what this container is. Like I was super clear. I like went over everything. This is a leadership program. This is this program. Like it was like, because for me, I have a rule with clients, and this might be like the best piece of advice I give on this podcast today in this conversation for any coaches out there is my rule for filtering people into my life, basically everywhere, is if I wouldn't invite you over for dinner as a friend, I don't want you as a client. So that's pretty high standard. You know me, like it's pretty high standard, right? And so this person came in hot, and I was like, hey, I just want to be really clear. Like, I know you love a lot of other things about me, like my style, my funness, my outgoingness. I met this person in LA. I said, but I just want to be really clear. That's who I am, but this is the program. As in, like, I just don't want there to be any confusion. And the person was like, no, 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 I want to do it. And I'm like, okay, like, let's take things slowly. Cause I probably felt like my intuition was probably like not really sure. They joined the program, they did some good work, and then they just got a little bit, you know, I think the reality check was in like, oh no, this is the program and it's not.
The program isn't that you're going to make me you.
Yeah. Right. And so that sounds so weird to say, but like, it's a true thing. There's a lot of people wanting to be their coaches, which, you know, we look up to people. I've done that. Like I've had coaches where I'm like, I want to be like Satyan, or I want to be like this, or I love that thing about this person. And I think it's great. But just being real with it. So
I've never heard it put like that. That's really, really, really great. Yeah. That's quite interesting. And we've all had great coaches and not so great coaches, but I think maybe even the not so great ones were not perhaps because they were not so great coaches, but perhaps us as coachees were thinking that something else was going to happen.
Yeah, we project stuff onto people and we're like, you're going to make me this. And so anyways, the client, it wasn't a good client relationship, and I had to fire them. And I've fired a couple clients in my day, but I've only had probably 3 clients in my career where I'm like, I don't know like how this happened, but I don't want this to happen again. So I'm just very clear on the types of people I work with. And if someone puts me on a pedestal, I'm like, I don't know. Like for me, I'd rather send them somewhere else to do work on themselves first or into my, transformational program. But they're not going to be in a different container with me because it's like, it's tricky too. Like we've been there. Like you and I have come a long way in the last like 5 years of knowing each other. We've leveled up a lot, and we've been in our own weird internal spaces where, so it's like giving people grace, but also knowing who you let into your container is huge. So it was like client from hell, dad, health issues, and then two people, actually my client and, the other person projecting on me in a very intense way. And I was like, this is why I needed to take 3 months off, because it was mentally and energetically exhausting. And then I was like, okay, well, what went wrong with the client? Okay, I kind of knew before. Okay, cool. That's not going to happen again. What happened with this guy? I'm like, I didn't have boundaries with him. When people give you advice and you didn't ask for it, it was like that. It was like that, but like condescending. And it was all the time, every time I bump into this person. And I'm like, wow, next time someone gives me advice, I mean, like, hey, love you. You're so great. I don't take advice from people that I'm not paying or unless I ask for it. And so that's my go-to. If I'm not paying you as my mentor, or you didn't ask for permission and I said yes, or I'm not asking you, do not give me advice. And that's how you keep your container tight, at least for me energetically.
Well, I'll get rid of those notes over there. Well,
yeah. Come on, you know what I mean? Because you can really impact someone in a negative way if you're projecting.
Why do people give unsolicited advice?
Well, sometimes we want to fix other people because that's something we actually don't want to look at within ourselves. Right? Mm-hmm. Projection, it's like, this is how I would feel. So you must be feeling this way right now. Or that's what, like, I feel like you should do this.
Yeah.
Because this is my history.
Because that'll make me feel more comfortable.
Yeah. And that's the difference, I think, between like a really great coach and maybe not a great coach or mentor, is someone who's going to like support you to get on the right path and is curious versus project on you. And also even like, I used to have a certification program. I don't have one active right now, but a big part of it is like holding space for people to authentically have their own answer, because like there's so much projection. It's insane. And that's how you waste people's money and time, is you project onto them and you don't have processes or tools to help them. And that's what's wrong with the coaching industry.
Whew. How you doing over there? You need some more hot water?
Sure.
Really? I'll go whip you some up because I have more questions. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can I use the washroom quick?
Yeah. Ask me a question and I'm too lazy to cut.
Okay. I'm like, because I really have to pee. So the question that I have for you is, what is something that irks you about the coaching industry? Or something that has bubbled to the surface that you've learned, and anything from our conversation that you want to share so far.
Deal. Okay. You have 43 seconds. Well, I'm going to talk to you as if you're here and you can hear me, because it's not a big apartment. Deidre's in the washroom. But I was going to ask Dee about the coaching industry. And I think, it's kind of strange not talking to you when you're not here. But I think it comes with doing the reps, though. Like, I think it comes with doing the reps and putting in the time. And we've all had good coaches. Some of us have had some bad coaches. But I for one, I have grown in ways over the last few years. I'm talking to the camera over here, that would have taken me exponentially longer without having a coach. I was just saying that I'm generally very pro coaching.
I love coaching.
Oh yeah, but
I love it.
It's so if I was thinking as to some of the mistakes and things that irk me, these days. But I think it comes with doing, like, putting in the reps again.
I
Like,
think so too.
like I think and doing. I think the biggest thing is the coach has to have done the work. So and I, like, you and I actually haven't sat down for at least a year, I believe.
1-to-1. It's been a while.
Yeah. So I can kind of feel, I think the last time we actually sat down 1-to-1 might have been last June or March or May.
Oh, we were
before at the park, before we did the speaker event. And maybe I'm just projecting, but maybe it was just me. But no, I think we've both grown in quite a bit. So the point being, if I came across someone right now who is looking for a specific coaching program, I'm like, give them to Dee, right? Because they're going to be in your sphere, they're going to be in your influence, and where you have come and grown as a person and internally, like, you're going to do your best to teach this. But even me just sitting here beside you for an hour or whatever it's been, like, I can feel your groundedness. I can sense your lack of judgment. I can hear you holding or feel you holding space as well. So it's just kind of being in your presence. And I think that's the thing that the best coaches have and develop. And again, you can grow that over time on your own. You can get in a good program, whatever that may be, to have that taught to you. But having things like holding space and listening and non-judgment, those are very specific things. And there's a list of 1,000 other things that come with being a great coach. But those are very specific things that I think only the best programs hopefully touch on.
I love that so much. And, one of the things that I really look at when I'm working with someone, whether it's a coach or a mentor or really anyone, it's like, who are they?
That's it.
Who are they? How do they live their life? Like, there's some really amazing business coaches that are doing crazy, crazy numbers, but I look at them and they're overweight, they're burnt out, they're gray earlier than maybe they would have been. And their relationships suffer. And for me, I'm like, that to me isn't success. Like, success for me is about having it all. Like, we were talking about dreams earlier. Like, I can't wait to have kids. Like, I can't wait to have a family and do like fun family things. The reason I started my coaching business like 6 years ago was because I'm like, I want to be like a stay-at-home mom, but also have a killer business that I run a couple days a week and cool opportunities, and I can serve a lot of people, but also like I want to have a family. And so when I think about success for me and like mentorship, it's people who have it going on in more than just one area. And I think that, yeah, that's what I look for. And that's who I learn from. And I learn from people who have been through stuff, like hard things. I really do believe that our trauma, when we heal our trauma, our wounds, or our challenges, however you want to frame it, it's the access point to our greatest gifts for the work that we do, for humanity, for coaching, for whatever it is that we feel called to gift into the world. And like, I've been through a lot of shit that I don't talk about. And a lot of it I do talk about, like in my TEDx and in other containers. But I really respect people who have been through adversity and have come out on the other side and are stronger, because I know those people can actually help me. The people who are just like, I know this. And it's like, have you been through what I'm going through? And if the answer is no, you're learning from a book, you're not embodied. And when we're not an embodiment of our work, it's very difficult to help people have lasting transformation. So I look for people who are the embodiment of it.
Now, the challenging thing with coaching and online coaching and following people on coaches on social media and things like that you can't, like, they only share a snippet. They only share the highlight reel or whatever you share.
Yeah.
So, if I was someone following you, and you actually share quite a bit, you share videos and they're all authentic naturally, but I would think that if someone listened and watched to this for a full hour and they can hear your voice and hear how you answer questions and feel the truth behind what you're saying, they're going to be more inclined to know who you are.
Right.
because it's so hard. And that's like, you can post, and that's what I've said this before, like you can post and post and post and short videos and all that stuff. But until you sit down with someone, and you can't sit down with everyone, but this is kind of the next best thing. But do you find that same sort of thing? Like I even feel like I know you a lot better than I ever have before, even when we've spoken in the past. But just from hearing the cadence of the voice and kind of the truth behind the voice, and the body expressions and mannerisms and everything like that.
Yeah. So the question is,
the question is, it's challenging if you're looking for a coach to really know who they are, unless you really somehow know who they are.
Yeah. And that's the thing that is tricky about social media, is it's not, someone's popularity on social media isn't necessarily the equal of the value of their work. For me and my containers, I had someone recently, because we just did a enrollment for a big program. And they're like, oh, how come you haven't scaled this to like lots of people? Because there could potentially be 50 to 100 people in that program every year. If I really wanted to push, I'm like, no, I love deep, small containers, because I walk alongside people and I really value relationship and deep transformation. So for me, my values as a coach in different ways, depending on like the container, I like to go deep with people. So people who actually know me know that. And that's why I feel really good about my work and when I work with people in certain containers. But online, it's limiting. Like if I was, and this is potentially something I could work on. It's actually something that I want to work on more, is like, how can I share more on social? Usually when I post on social, it's a snippet of a talk, because I've been traveling for like 5 months, almost every week, speaking on a stage. That's where people get to know me too, because I share stories and I'm like this, but maybe I'm wearing a sparkly dress or something, right? So it's like, you don't know until you know. But I think the best way to find support is to be like, oh, I feel energetically drawn to that person, not based on, it's like, what do you want from a person? Is it status? Is it success? Is it financial? Is it the whole package? Like, I believe in the whole package. And that's what I look for in mentors. And also people who are in healthy relationships. I'm like, if you're in a healthy relationship and you're an entrepreneur and you're killing it and you're fit and you have kids and you're happy and healthy and you have vacations and time for yourself and space, then fuck yes, because that's where I'm going. You know what I'm saying?
So you don't look for the people on social media that say, never settle, never settle, never settle, and they've never been in a relationship.
Well, that was me. That was me for a while. So that's
me too. I was talking about myself and you and about 7 other people.
Okay, so let's talk about the never settle. So I was single on purpose for most of 4 years after my last relationship. I had some trauma I had to heal in my heart.
You go, girl. You let it out.
Stuff I had to heal, okay? And before that, I was like married. I was with someone for 8 years, mentally, emotionally abusive relationship. I had some healing to do. And I would say, never settle, never settle. And I actually do still believe that, but not from a harsh place, not from a place of like, I'm too good and no one gets access to me. Like, not from that place, because I think that's kind of a wounded place. And I think that, I've had moments being single, and I don't know if I've ever admitted this. I mean, I've probably admitted it to
just myself. Assume nobody's listening.
No one's listening. I'm sharing this. I don't care. But like this last year, I was like, oh, like I want a partner. Like I want partnership. And it was the first time where I was actually like, oh, it's kind of sad. Like I'm not in partnership. And I love my life. I love my business. I love everything I do. I'm very happy and fulfilled. So it's not like I was seeking a relationship to fill something. Or get validation. It's like, I just really want to share life and I want to have kids. And so that was a big vulnerable moment for me this last year. And then things shifted for me. And I was like, okay, I need to be open to people who aren't coaches. I need to be open to
please.
Yeah, right. And it just really shifted things for me. I forget what I was saying, but I think the purpose of it was
never settling.
Not settling. Yeah. And I think that settling to me is more of a feeling. Like if someone, when I think about my...
Very good. Right? Thank you. Very good. Okay. Seriously. Well, because I'm like, you actually, to an extent, you do have to settle.
You have to settle.
You have to settle because you can't always be looking for something better.
But settling could just be like settling in a location, and settling as in I'm going to stay here. It doesn't mean settling as this isn't good enough.
You don't settle for what you don't want to feel.
Yeah.
We all got a feeling we're after, but you can, you know, it's not up to the person you're settling with to always generate that feeling for you. You're going to have to do some work and open up and cultivate that on our own. But it's eventually, for the guys out there, at least, like, I can only speak to them because that's me and my experience. Like, you have to stop looking all over the place. At a certain point, you got to focus and start pouring some love in.
Yeah. And I feel like with men, and I'm going to speak for men on as a woman, seeing what I observe with men, because I coach a lot of men and I do help people with relationships. So I do feel qualified to say this.
We'll see. Continue.
What I see a lot with men who are constantly going from one thing to the next, it can be a way of avoiding intimacy. And fear of rejection actually can be a big theme. And also with women too, but I see it in men really quickly, who are all over like next, date, distraction from emotions, distraction from intimacy. And it's like, if I really let someone see into me, will I be enough? And it's scary. It's a scary world out there, especially for men who have to, like, you know, and I say quotation marks because it's not actually true. Women don't need this. But like, a lot of men have a lot of pressure to be like really good looking and make a lot of money, right? And have it all together all the time. And so as a man, that's scary. If a woman starts to get close to your heart or like towards your truth or an insecurity, would you want to run and flee? Potentially, unless you've had some self-awareness and some grounding and you've done some work on yourself. And like for me, I wasn't ready for a relationship for the last 4 years. I wasn't, because I had my own stuff that I had to work through, you know? But yeah, it's so interesting how like relationships are such a mirror for our ability to be with ourselves and accept ourselves. So going back to the topic of settling,
keep talking.
Yeah. Settling. I used to think that settling was like, making sure that, I think settling, I used it in a way of like,
keep going.
I settled in relationship for men who didn't really honor and respect me. Like, I remember a good friend of mine, David, was like, you need a man who's going to honor, respect, and cherish you. And I remember being like, huh? Like, this is like 5-6 years ago when I was not in a great relationship. And I was like, what? It didn't make sense, right? Because I was in a really fun relationship, right? And I was like, that doesn't make sense. And now it's like, no, like that's a foundation. Like, if someone doesn't like respect, honor, and cherish me, then it's not going to work. And so the way I see a relationship is different. And what I was attracted to before were men that didn't treat me well because I didn't fully value myself. And I had some, traumas that I had to heal. And now I'm like, I'm an open heart and I have met some really incredible people, and it's just totally different.
Nice.
But it's like, yeah, it's interesting. Hey?
I think, and we'll wrap her up pretty quick here.
Yeah. I feel like we could talk for like 5 hours.
Well, hey, talk is cheap. I have to have you back on the show.
I'd love to come back. Yeah.
But I think, and you said the word a couple times, and I kind of, at least I know it in myself over the last, especially sort of 6 months and year and a bit. And I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but it is that sense of self-worth and that sense of value.
Yeah.
Because once you kind of step more fully into that and you start bleeding your energy all over the place, or trying to prove different things, or trying to get this validation from different areas, again, you're just leaking your energy all over the place, but you don't have that groundedness and truth of who you are. So if you can sit and dance a little bit more firmly in that, and then, perhaps never settle who someone doesn't see you in with that same sort of value.
Yeah, it's someone who sees you and honors you for who you really are. Like, if you have to change who you are to be enough for someone, and I mean change like foundational who you are, not like a behavior that's unhealthy or toxic, then move on, because that's self-betrayal essentially. And when we don't feel enough, well, if I just change this about myself, or I'm
if
more
I
this,
just make this much money, or I launch this and I have this many followers, or I drive this car.
Yeah.
For the guys, right?
And it's just bullshit. It's
but it's hard for the guys, right? Man, it's hard for the guys, right?
Yeah.
Because we have these stories and we compare and we want to be all this and we think we need to be all that. But I can't speak for the women, but I know there's some of them perhaps that are into that. But I would say the majority of them don't give a shit. They just kind of want to connect with you and who you are. And they would it be fair to say that the women want to connect with a man who fully values himself and is kind of solid with who he is?
Oh, for sure. That, like, who knows who he is, knows his values, knows what he wants, goes after it, and is courageous.
Oh,
because like a lot of men, I mean, my experience, I'll own it. My experience is a lot of men play it safe when they're interested in someone or they want to go after someone. And then the woman's like, oh, okay. Like, they don't take them seriously. And I think that a man who can like wear his heart on his sleeve and be like, I'm interested in you, I want to pursue you, and like is vulnerable, like that's really attractive. And I think a lot of men and women, but men play it safe to protect their ego, when it's like, if you just go all in with one person. And I hear this too with men. A lot of men that I've talked to are like, oh, like I'm dating a lot of women who are great, but it's not really the woman that I want to go for. Well, just go for the woman that you want. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can get the quick hits and the external gratification, or you can level up, and I don't mean that in a diminishing way. I mean, go after what you want, be courageous, and don't hold back. And I think that's probably the best piece of advice I can give men.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't? There's a couple things. There's a lot of things we haven't touched on.
We can talk for days.
Anything? How can people find you and keep in touch with you and follow you on social media?
Yeah.
And where are you doing any speaking coming up soon, or any programs?
Yeah.
Tell us where we can get more of these.
Lots of things happening. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. It's just I am Deidre Sirianni, just my name. And my company is called Radically Aligned. We have a mastermind, a business accelerator for people who are impact-driven entrepreneurs, visionaries, change makers who want to be seen, get on stages and get their message out there, have courses and things that support their mission and values so that they can have it all. And and I have some transformational programs. I'm going to be launching some events in Vancouver. It's been a while, this spring and in the fall, and they're going to be really powerful. So if you follow me on social media, if you got value from our hilarious conversation, it was all over the place, so fun, just reach out. I'd love to get to know whoever watched this if you resonated. And I have a book, it's called Turn Your Light On. It's like a stepping stone into my work. And those are the main things.
And there's a TEDx out there.
And there's a TEDx out there on unhealed trauma. This is before trauma was super popular. Yeah, I think mine was one of the only ones on TEDx with trauma, so that was kind of cool.
Nice.
But so that's a vulnerable share. I'm excited to get to know community and tune in, so feel free to reach out.
I'm excited. I had a little bit of a goosebump and future flash, 5-10 years. I'm when we're having another one of these conversations. Right. And I'm excited for you and what you're gonna do, and what the background may be a little bit different, on that sort of show.
Oh, I can see that too.
Wow. Right.
We're gonna have our own shows, for sure. It's just a matter of days, my friend.
Well, I already do. So on that note.
Yes, I love it.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Come back anytime.